right, so let's just let the energy settle a little bit. Just sink into your chair or wherever you're sitting. And let's just begin to breathe. We'll just give people a few moments to roll on into the class a few minutes late if they need to. Hey, Lisa. We're just kind of sinking into our chairs and just getting ready to get started. There's a teaching bubbling up tonight. I think I'd like us to go into meditation a little bit first, just so that it's better received. So let's just do the standard. Attention up at the forehead and crown, eyes on the floor. And just, oh, oh, it's okay. So we're gonna step into meditation now. So attention up high in the body, forehead and crown. Fair warning, my dog has let me know that she's going to be very difficult for the next hour. So don't be surprised. And just let your eyes fall to a place on the floor in front of you. And just begin to watch your breath. As you breathe in, you're 100% aware of your breath. As you breathe out, you're riding that breath all the way down. And you're just doing your best to let go of everything else. And we're just going to do that for really a few minutes. And then we're going to talk a little bit. There's a teaching coming forward. So, for anybody just joining, we're just quietly watching the breath, 100% with the breath. Breathe in, breathe out, and nothing else. We're just centering ourselves a little bit. Okay, so we're going to talk just a little bit before we go back into meditation. First thing I want you to do is I just want you to kind of become aware of the energy in your body. Notice what's comfortable, notice what's uncomfortable. Just become aware of how your body feels. How present are you in this moment? How clear is this moment for you right now? Check in with yourself and just get a baseline reading. Now, I imagine most of you, and myself included, have a few wrinkles to iron out in our energy, right? Things feel maybe mostly okay, but then there are just little areas that just feel unresolved, or little parts of us that just, they don't feel harmonious. They're not just kind of given to this moment. And that's how most of us live, right? So we live our lives largely exhausted. We just don't live in that state of dynamic harmony that usually you feel by the end of a class, that thing that actually makes it so that at the end of these classes you sleep better and you feel good that you showed up. You are fundamentally changed usually by the end of one of these classes if you really do the work. And it reflects back to you from your environment. But I want to talk a little bit about the reason that we come so tired and the reason, like, what is it that we're putting back in place? What is it that makes it so that we don't sustain it? And really, what this comes down to is you are scattered across your inner universe. If you were to really just close your eyes and ask yourself, where am I right now? It's a lot more complicated than you're just in a room where you're trying to meditate, isn't it? There's a part of you that's still at work. There's a part of you that is nervous about something coming up, and you're in that. There's a part of you that had a disagreement with somebody, and you're still kind of replaying the discomfort of that. There is a part of you that was harmed horribly early in your life, and there's always a part of you still kind of living that. And many, many more things, right? You've just got all these different places where you are stuck. And all of those versions of yourself that are just sitting in those different places actually are taking attention and they're taking energy from you. The energy that you have to be here right now is actually siphoned off so that you can hang on to all of these other moments, past moments, imaginary moments, misunderstandings, future fears. As humans, we actually have the ability to create worlds. You do it every time you go to sleep, in an instant, boom, you have an entire world around you of your creation. But you do it when you're awake too. And you actually inhabit those worlds. It would be one thing if after a trauma had passed or an uncomfortable moment had passed, that you just did EFT, which is something we teach on the website, and just reclaimed your energy from that and didn't leave a part of yourself there. But mostly, You don't do that because you're traumatized and you're not thinking clearly. And then you collect so many of these things that they're just a cacophony that you sometimes can't even see the individual stories anymore that you're still stuck in. Just multiple universes. You know, in my shamanic training, we used something called recapitulation, which is a technique where you literally write down every single event you've ever lived into a notebook. Like everything you can remember, back to your birth if possible. And it's funny how the more you do that, you kind of work your way back into being someone who can remember much further back into your childhood. And then once that is done, and it's a really daunting undertaking, you go back to like 3 of those moments a day and you relive them with a conscious mind in your head. And you pull all the energy you left behind in those moments back to you. In EFT, which is tapping, it's the emotional freedoms technique, which is a part of what we teach, you do the same thing. You know, they have techniques where you do that to go through and just remove the charge off of all of your past traumas. But in a moment like this, where it will be very difficult to guide multiple people through completely different experiences with EFT all at once, I think probably one of the best techniques to use is soul retrieval. Really, all of this is a form of soul retrieval. But what soul retrieval is it is a recognition that there are these parts of yourself that have wandered off into other moments, little investments of your totality that have made you split off into fragments. And from this moment, you just call them back one at a time. So here's what that looks like, I think, for a moment like this. You would close your eyes and you would just ask yourself the question, where am I right now? Not where you think you're supposed to be, but where are you actually? And what you're looking for is first, the most dominant universe that you're in. What's got the majority of your attention right now? What is siphoning the most of your power? And what you do is you just step consciously in your mind into that moment and you romance yourself back to this moment. How to do that is kind of like telling someone how to raise their arm. It's really a matter of intent. But if you're having trouble, you can even communicate with that part of yourself. And in pretty much every situation, the communication goes something to the tune of living in this moment, staying in this suffering or in this worry is doing nothing to protect you. All it's doing is leaving you vulnerable in the present moment. So come back to the present moment and you just bring that part of yourself back into this moment. And you'll know when it returns because you'll actually feel your energy intensify a little bit. A part of you has been made whole. A leak in you has been plugged up, has been fixed. And then with your clear meditative mind, you just go back inside and you ask again, where am I right now? And you wait for the next biggest distraction, the next biggest thing that is kind of pulling on your energy. Some people might not be super aware of what it is that's pulling on their energy. It might just be a feeling and they can't quite see the image that it connects to. And that's okay. Follow the feeling and let the imagery appear. The imagery might make no sense to you at all. It doesn't matter. It's all an interpretation, anyways. What's important is that you take that part of you that is stuck in that place and you romance it back. You romance it back to this moment so that that attention can be given to this present moment. And so I'd like us to practice that. And I'd like you to see how different you feel after you've pulled a significant portion of your universes back into this one. How clear is that? Does that make sense to you guys? Mm-hmm. Great question, and I'm going to repeat it for the recording. So the question is that she wants to make sure that what I'm saying is we're not going there to resolve the energy. We're just pulling ourselves out of it and back from it. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, and it's a really important distinction. There's nothing we need to fix there. You don't need to stay there. You know, if there's something that happened in your past, it happened. Yep. You know, if something happened in your past, it happened. And then leaving it behind doesn't mean it was right that it happened. It doesn't mean that the person who did it shouldn't have to pay for it. It doesn't mean any of those things. What it means is you are no longer going to store their karma for them. When you allow a part of yourself to stay stuck in that moment where you were hurt, you literally open up a storage space in the multiverse for their transgressions. And you pay for it with your own energy every minute of your life. So it actually makes way more sense, whether there's resolution or not, to let it go and just return back to this moment. Here's the thing. All of these horrible things that happen to us, we learn from them. We grow from them. And they're actually part of a giant picture of our journey here. You know, I've had plenty of difficulties of my own. And some of them even recent. And you know what? There are areas of growth that I didn't even realize I needed. You know, there are levels that I've risen to through the difficulties, which are still not resolved. But just through learning how to live and not constantly give myself over to them, to keep my energy intact. I couldn't have gotten there without them. And I promise the same is true for every problem you have. Every problem you have on the other side of it is your personal power. But do not hold people's karma for them. Don't create a whole world for that to live in. Instead, figure out which one of those worlds is siphoning off the majority of your attention and shut it down. Just go there and bring the person back. We'll deal with it in the present moment if there's something to be dealt with. But 9 times out of 10, there's nothing that needs to be done. 9 times out of 10, the reason we're doing it, the reason we can't let go of it, is because we feel like if we let go of it, that something or someone who doesn't deserve to win wins, you know? Or like we're not going to be protected in some future moment. That's another thing that happens. Problem is, when you are scattered, you are the most vulnerable. So there really is no justification for staying in your pain, for keeping a piece of that alive. The memory's always there. When something comes into life that requires the lesson you learned from that moment, you're going to remember and you're going to make a decision. But it won't be an emotional one if you have pulled that energy back to yourself. It won't just be reactive if you've pulled that energy back to yourself. Now, for those of you who can't remember your past very well, again, you can actually make it up. It doesn't matter. Let the energy build the scene, and that'll be enough. Pull yourself out of that scene, pull yourself out of that energy. How are we doing? Is that clear? It's a gentle beckoning, and it's an act of trust. You have to approach that being that is stuck with a sense of nurturing and welcoming and love. And if they really won't come, then you have to rationalize with them a little bit. But mostly just welcome them back with open arms and feel that energy come back to this moment. Okay, so if there are no more questions, let's get started. So, close your eyes. Where are you? What is pulling the majority of your attention away from this moment? And just sink into your breath and allow yourself to go there and deal with the problem. Bring them back. Those of you who have studied EFT, tapping, if you're having trouble getting them to come, tap on them. Run the tapping points on them. Comfort them. Help them detach from the charge of the moment. Told you. And if you don't know EFT tapping, you can still put your hand on their shoulder. Rub their chest a little bit. Make them comfortable. Massage their hand. Just be nice to yourself. Some of you are good at this. After each round, come back to center and ask yourself, where else am I? There's that layer of universes that you just created in the last 24 hours. Or you can relax a little deeper and just go one layer in. Sink one layer in. And you can see those areas from longer ago, all the way back to your childhood. Those big ones that get you quietly all day long. At that deeper layer, where am I? Now finish up the one you're working on. And open your eyes. And I want you to do another check in. How has the energy of your body changed? How have the little areas of discomfort or bad feeling changed? Did you notice how, as you did it, it got easier? It kind of teaches you about itself, that technique. So, what are we really doing when we do that? When we use a technique like that, we're speaking to our subconscious in the language that it understands, symbol and feeling. You know, the majority of our impulses, the majority of everything that we do, and all of our inclinations lie below the surface of our consciousness, and it's very difficult to change that. You know, there are ways to do it through willpower, but if you're smart, you learn how to talk to your subconscious in its own language. Much easier than just sustaining a habit with willpower. And when you do something like that, what you're doing is you are showing the subconscious. You are enlivening the moment and showing it the moment with all of its feeling. And then you are showing it that you want to withdraw your investment from it. And that's something the subconscious can respond to. It's a little hands off in a way. The subconscious doesn't deal well with direct invitation. Sometimes we can use a few words just to get the ball rolling. But it's the imagery and the feeling that the subconscious understands. And obviously, there's a lot of work to do. But it's all good work, and all of it makes you feel better. Were any of you not able to experience a shift? I'd love to hear about it if you weren't. Or if you were. Just if anyone's having difficulty, I'm happy to talk about it. Well, those emotions carry your energy. That's your investment. So that is literally your body's way of telling you that just happened. You know, we're all different, right? So we all have our own symbolic language for everything. And some of us are feelers, some of us are more hearers, some of us are more visual. So you might just experience it a little differently. But that's what that is. That's your body saying, okay, here you go. And you might have to do it a few times. You'll know the next time you sit down and say, where am I? If it pulls you back to that scene, then there's more work to do there. I think it helps too to create a little tug on that scene with your feelings. You know, almost like as you inhale, you're just pulling the energy off the walls and back towards yourself. But then there's also a moment where you just have to have some faith that the message you just gave was received and that it's coming back. Did you notice a shift in your body at the end of it when you checked your body? Yeah. Okay. So why don't we go back in for just a little while? Let's go back in and clean up just a little bit more. Okay? We got about 10 minutes we could probably do that. So go back inside. What is pulling my attention? What is pulling me from this moment? Where am I? And then go back in yourself to return home. When you're ready in the last few minutes, I want you to try this. Place your attention in your body and find a place where there's discomfort, especially emotional feeling discomfort, and follow that into its universe. Follow that to the place where you're stuck. Beckon that part of yourself home and see what it does to that feeling. Finish up. And then open your eyes and anchor all of that new awareness into this moment, that you can more fully be here right now. Anytime you find yourself suffering over something that isn't immediately happening in this moment, or maybe it is happening in this moment, but you're interpreting it in a way that causes suffering, then you know there's some part of you stuck somewhere and you need to bring it home. Anytime you find that you have strong expectations of a moment or of anything, that's also a sign that there is a part of you stuck somewhere and you need to bring it home. Expectations curtail the freedom of the subsequent moment. You need to be able to step into things freely. So this week, I want you to start looking out for the different places where you have a parallel universe that you're stuck in. Some little area of your past or your future that you can't seem to let go of. And I want you to do something about it. It's a world full of people with a million issues they're not doing anything about. Hoping things will be different, expecting things to be different, but not willing to step into it and do anything. So you've showed up for a meditation class, so you've done something. Keep it up in small ways throughout this week. If you did that every day, kept an eye out for it all day long, who would you be by next week? How would you feel by next week? What if you did that for a year? What limitations could you untangle with this simple technique? Okay, guys, I think that's our class for tonight. Are there any questions or any comments or anything anyone wants to talk about before we close up? Okay. All right. I will see you all next week, and I hope you have a really great 7 days. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Have a great night. And welcome to our newcomer. Have a good night.